The attic stairs creaked under Eli's feet. Each step groaned like it was telling him to turn back. He didn't. Grandpa's house always smelled like old books and wood polish. But up here, it smelled like secrets. Eli pulled the string on the bare light bulb. Yellow light spilled across boxes stacked to the ceiling. Dusty trunks. Old uniforms. A flag folded into a perfect triangle. His mom had sent him up here to find photo albums. That's it. Just photo albums. But something in the corner caught his eye. A wooden chest he'd never noticed before. Dark oak with metal clasps. And carved into the lid, 5 words in a circle. Watch. Stand. Fight. Strong. Love. Eli's fingers traced each letter. The wood felt warm, almost alive. He unlatched the clasps. The lid swung open with a sound like a whisper. Inside sat a leather journal, cracked and worn, pages yellowed at the edges. On the cover, handwritten in faded ink, the Warrior's Code. Eli's heart hammered against his ribs. This was Grandpa's handwriting. He'd know it anywhere. He opened to the first page. To whoever finds this, the code chose you, not the other way around. Eli swallowed hard. His hands were shaking now. He kept reading. There are 5 principles. 5 words that change everything. Watch. Stand. Fight. Throng. Love. The next page had each word written bigger, with notes underneath. Gosh. Be alert. See what others miss. The enemy hides in plain sight. Stand. Hold your ground. When everyone runs, you stay. Fight. Not with fists, with faith. The real battle isn't what you can see. Tarist. True strength protects the weak. It doesn't bully them. Love. Do everything in love. Even the fighting. The fighting. At the bottom of the page, Grandpa had written one more thing. This isn't a game. This is training. Your training begins soon. Eli looked up from the journal. The attic felt different now. Smaller, somehow. Like the walls were leaning in to listen. Grandpa had been gone for 2 years. How could he have known Eli would find this? How could he have known today? A floorboard creaked behind him. Eli spun around. Nothing there. Just shadows and dust. He tucked the journal under his arm. He wasn't leaving it up here. Not a chance. That night, Eli couldn't sleep. The journal sat on his nightstand. Moonlight through the window made the leather glow silver. He'd read it 3 more times. Every page. Every note. Finally, his eyes grew heavy. The room started to blur, and somewhere between awake and asleep, he heard it. A voice. Deep and warm. Like thunder wrapped in velvet. Don't let anyone look down on you because you are young. Eli's eyes snapped open. His room was empty. The voice was gone, but the words stayed. He grabbed the journal, flipped to a page he'd skipped before. There, in the margin, Grandpa had written the name. Timothy. And underneath, he was young too. Scared too. But God didn't see a kid. God saw a warrior. Eli thought about school tomorrow, about Jake Martinez and his crew, about the way they looked at him, like he was nothing, like he was just a kid. His stomach twisted into a familiar knot. But then he looked at the journal again, at those 5 words carved into his memory now. Watch, stand, fight, strong, love. Maybe Grandpa was right. Maybe being young didn't mean being weak. Maybe this Timothy guy figured that out too. Eli pressed the journal against his chest. The leather was warm against his shirt. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. He didn't know what this training was. He didn't know why the code had chosen him. But for the first time in a long time, Eli felt something other than scared. He felt ready. Outside his window, the moon disappeared behind a cloud. And somewhere in the darkness, something was watching. Waiting. The training was about to begin. Eli couldn't stop thinking about the journal. All through breakfast, the 5 words echoed in his head. Watch. Stand. G. Trung. Love. His mom asked him something about orange juice. He nodded without hearing. His little sister threw a piece of toast at him. He didn't even flinch. The bus ride felt different too. Eli sat by the window like always, but this time his eyes kept drifting to the other kids. Really, looking at them. Not just seeing shapes and colors, but actually watching. That's when he noticed Marcus. The new kid sat 3 rows up, alone. His backpack was pulled tight against his chest like a shield. His shoulders hunched forward. He stared straight ahead at nothing. Eli had seen Marcus before. Everyone had. He'd transferred in 2 weeks ago from somewhere up north. Quiet kid. Kept to himself. Most people just forgot he was there. But now, Eli saw something else. 3 seats behind Marcus, Jake Corbin was whispering to his friends. Their eyes kept flicking toward the new kid. One of them, a bigger boy named Tyler, made a shoving motion with his hands. They all laughed. Silent laughs. The kind teachers don't catch. Eli's stomach twisted. At lunch, he grabbed his tray and headed for his usual spot near the windows. But halfway there, his feet stopped. Like someone had pressed pause on his legs. Marcus sat alone at the end of a long table. His lunch sat untouched in front of him. He was drawing something in a small notebook, head down, pen moving fast. And there they were again. Jake and Tyler and a kid named Derek. They'd circled around to the other side of the cafeteria. Most people wouldn't notice. But Eli saw it. The way they were positioning themselves. The way Jake's smile didn't reach his eyes. They were planning something. Eli's grandfather's voice came back to him then. Not from the journal this time. From memory. Grandpa had taken him fishing once, 2 summers ago. They'd sat on the dock at dawn, watching the mist rise off the lake. You know what a watchman does, Eli? Grandpa had asked out of nowhere. Watches stuff? Eli had guessed. Grandpa had chuckled. A watchman sees what others miss. In the old days, cities had walls. And on those walls stood watchmen. While everyone else slept, they kept their eyes open, looking for danger, looking for trouble, because they knew something most people forget. What's that? That seeing isn't enough. You have to ACT on what you see. A watchman who spots the enemy but stays silent. That's worse than being blind. Eli stood frozen in the middle of the cafeteria, tray in his hands. Kids flowed around him like water around a rock. He could walk away. Go sit with his friends by the window. Eat his pizza. Pretend he didn't see anything. But the words were burning in his chest now. W. Nehemiah. He'd read about him in Sunday school. The guy who rebuilt Jerusalem's walls when everyone said it couldn't be done. He'd started by seeing, walking around the broken city at night, taking note of every gap, every weakness, every place the enemy could get through. Nehemiah was a watchman first. Before he was a builder. Before he was a leader. He opened his eyes to what everyone else had given up on. Eli took a breath. Then he walked toward Marcus's table. His heart hammered. His palms went slick on the plastic tray. He felt Jake's eyes track him across the room. But he kept walking. Hey. Eli set his tray down across from Marcus. Mind if I sit here? Marcus looked up, surprised. His pen stopped moving. For a second, he looked like he was waiting for the punchline. The joke. The trap. But Eli just sat down and opened his milk. I'm Eli. A long pause. Then, slowly, Marcus's shoulders dropped an inch. Marcus. Cool drawings. Eli nodded at the notebook. Is that a dragon? The tiniest smile flickered across Marcus's face. Yeah. I'm working on a whole world. Dragons, knights, castles. All of it. That's sick. Across the cafeteria, Eli caught Jake's expression. Confusion. Annoyance. The plan disrupted. For now? Eli knew this wasn't over. Jake wasn't the type to give up, and sitting with Marcus once didn't solve anything. But it was a start. His grandfather's words echoed again. A watchman who spots the enemy but stays silent. That's worse than being blind. Eli had seen. And today, he'd chosen to act. Be sober-minded. Be watchful. Your adversary, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion. The first word of the code wasn't about fighting. It wasn't about being strong. It was about keeping your eyes and seeing the people everyone else had forgotten. Eli's feet wouldn't move. The bell had rung 5 minutes ago. Kids streamed past him toward the buses. But there was Marcus, alone by the bike rack. And there was Jake, with Tyler and Derek, walking straight toward him. Eli's stomach dropped. He knew what was coming. But then something worse happened. Jake changed direction. He was walking toward Eli. Hey. Jake's voice was smooth. Friendly, even. You're the kid from Mr. Patterson's class, right? Eli. Eli nodded. His throat felt tight. Cool. Jake smiled. But his eyes stayed cold. Like a snake's. We've been watching you. You seem pretty smart. Tyler and Derek moved closer. Eli realized he was surrounded. Here's the thing. Jake leaned in. That new kid, Marcus, we think he's weird. Don't you think he's weird? Eli's hands started shaking. He stuffed them in his pockets. I don't really know him, Eli said quietly. See, that's the problem. Jake's smile got wider. He doesn't have any friends. And we want to make sure it stays that way. Derek laughed. A mean, sharp sound. All you gotta do, Jake continued, is tell everyone he smells. That he's gross. Easy, right? Eli felt sick. His heart hammered against his ribs. And if you do, Tyler added, you can hang with us. We look out for our guys. The word hit Eli like lightning. Stand. He could almost hear Grandpa's voice, reading from that old leather journal. A warrior doesn't move when pressure comes. He plants his feet. He holds his ground. Daniel, Grandpa had told him once, was just a teenager when the king made a law. Everyone had to bow to a golden statue, or die. What did he do? Eli had asked. Grandpa's eyes had sparkled. He didn't bow. They threw him in a den of lions. And God shut the lions' mouths. Eli looked at Jake now, at Tyler and Derek closing in. They weren't lions, but they sure felt like it. So, Jake crossed his arms. You in? Or are you gonna be a loser like him? Every part of Eli wanted to say yes. To take the easy way. To be safe. But then he saw Marcus, across the yard, unlocking his bike alone, not knowing that 3 boys were deciding his fate. Eli's voice came out shaky, but it came out. No. Jake blinked. What? No. Eli said it stronger this time. His hands were still trembling, but his feet were planted. I don't do that. For a long second, nobody moved. Jake's smile disappeared. Bad choice. His voice was ice now. You're gonna regret this. They walked away. Eli's knees felt like water. He leaned against the wall to keep from falling. He'd done it. He'd stood firm. But standing had a cost. He could see it in Jake's eyes. This wasn't over. That night, Eli opened Grandpa's journal again. His fingers found the page about Daniel. The lions didn't disappear because Daniel was brave. They were still there, hungry, circling. But Daniel stood anyway. And God stood with him. Eli traced the second word carved on the chest. Stand. He thought about tomorrow. Jake would be there. Tyler and Derek, too. The lions weren't going anywhere. But something had changed. Inside, he'd been afraid. He was still afraid. But he'd stood anyway. And for the first time, Eli understood what Grandpa meant. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's standing through it. He closed the journal. Tomorrow would come. The lions would circle. But Eli knew the code now. And he wasn't backing down. The next day, Eli found Marcus sitting alone behind the gym. His back pressed against the brick wall. Knees pulled up to his chest. Something was wrong. Eli walked over slowly. Hey. Marcus didn't look up. Hey. Eli sat down next to him. The concrete was cold through his jeans. Neither of them said anything for a long moment. Finally, Marcus spoke. His voice cracked on the first word. My parents are getting divorced. The words hung in the air like smoke. Eli's chest tightened. He didn't know what to say. What do you say to something like that? That's why we moved here. Marcus picked at a thread on his shoelace. Mom needed to get away. Start fresh. He laughed, but there was no happiness in it. Fresh. Like that fixes anything. Eli felt anger rising in his gut. Hot and fierce, but not at Marcus's parents. At something bigger, something darker, something he couldn't see, but could definitely feel. "I'm sorry," Eli said quietly. Marcus shrugged. "Dad says it's not my fault. Mom says the same thing." His voice dropped to almost a whisper. "Then why does it feel like my fault?" That night, Eli couldn't sleep. He kept seeing Marcus's face, the way his shoulders had curved in, like he was trying to protect something broken inside his chest. Eli pulled out Grandpa's journal and flipped through the pages until he found the section on fight. His grandfather's handwriting filled the margins. The third word of the code seemed simple, but most warriors get it wrong. Eli kept reading. They think the enemy is the person in front of them, the bully, the critic, the one who hurt them. But Scripture tells us something different. Ephesians 6, verse 12. "We do not wrestle against flesh and blood. Our battle is against spiritual forces of evil." Eli read the words again. Not flesh and blood. Thought about Jake, about the cruelty in his eyes. But then he thought about something else. Jake's dad never showed up to anything. Not games. Not parent nights. Nothing. Maybe Jake wasn't the real enemy. Maybe Jake was another casualty. Eli kept reading. David understood this. When he faced Goliath, everyone saw a giant. David saw a defier of God. He fought for Israel, for God's honor. He didn't fight against a man. He fought against everything that man represented. Something clicked in Eli's mind. David fought for, not against. There's a difference. Fighting against. Someone makes you their enemy. Fighting for someone, that makes you a warrior. Eli closed his eyes and thought about Marcus, about his family falling apart, about the darkness that creeps into homes and destroys what should be safe. That was the enemy, not Marcus's dad, not Marcus's mom. The darkness between them. Then Eli thought about Jake. His stomach twisted. He didn't want to pray for Jake. Jake was mean. Jake tried to make him hurt Marcus. But maybe that was exactly the point. Real warriors pray for their enemies. Grandpa's words seemed to rise off the page. Because they know the real enemy isn't made of flesh and blood. Eli took a deep breath. "God," he whispered into the dark room, "I don't really like Jake. You know that." He paused. "But if there's something hurting him, something making him hurt others." He swallowed hard. Help him. Fight for him. Even if he doesn't know he needs it. The prayer felt strange leaving his lips. Uncomfortable. Like wearing shoes on the wrong feet. But also, right. Eli turned back to the journal. One more paragraph. Fight doesn't mean hate. It doesn't mean destroy. It means stand in the gap. Pray when you ought to curse. Defend when you ought to attack. Fight for the people the enemy is trying to steal. Eli traced the word fight with his finger. 3 words down, 2 to go. Watch, stand, fight. He was starting to understand. These weren't just words. They were weapons. But as he drifted toward sleep, a new thought surfaced. The code talked about being strong. But what does that even mean? Strong like muscles? Strong like not crying? He thought about Marcus behind the gym. Knees to his chest. Voice breaking. Was Marcus weak for crying? Something told Eli there was more to strength than he understood. And he was about to find out what. The crowd outside Principal Morrison's office was thick. Eli pushed through, his heart already racing. Something was wrong. He could feel it. Then he saw Marcus. 2 teachers held his arms. His chest heaved. His eyes were wild. And on the floor, holding his nose, was Tyler. Blood dripped between Tyler's fingers. "He's crazy," Tyler shouted. "I didn't even do anything." But Eli had seen Tyler that morning, whispering to Jake, laughing while looking at Marcus, poking, prodding, pushing. Day after day after day. Marcus. Eli tried to catch his friend's eyes. Marcus. But Marcus didn't see him. Marcus didn't see anyone. His whole body shook like a volcano that had finally erupted. Principal Morrison appeared. "Get him to my office. Now." The teachers pulled Marcus away. His sneakers squeaked against the floor as he stumbled forward. For 1 second, Marcus looked back. Their eyes met. Eli saw something that made his stomach drop. Not anger. Not rage. Shame. Marcus got suspended for 3 days. That afternoon, Eli sat on his bed, staring at nothing. He felt useless. Stuck. Like he should have done something but didn't know what. The journal sat on his nightstand. He grabbed it and flipped past watch, past stand, past fight. There it was. Est. His grandfather's handwriting filled the page. "Eli, let me tell you about 2 strong men. One got it wrong. One got it right. The first was Samson, strongest man who ever lived. Could kill a lion with his bare hands. Could tear down buildings. But Samson used his strength for himself. To show off. To get revenge. To prove he was better than everyone else. And it destroyed him. Samson's muscles were huge," Grandpa wrote. But his heart was small. He forgot what strength is for. Eli turned the page. "Now let me tell you about Jesus. Jesus was stronger than Samson. Way stronger. He made the universe with his words. He walked on water. He commanded storms. But Jesus never used his strength to show off. Not once. When kids came to him, he picked them up. When sick people reached for him, he healed them. When his friends were scared, he calmed the waves. He used his power to serve." "Here's the secret, Eli," the journal continued. "Real strength isn't about being the toughest. It's about using whatever power you have to lift up someone who's weak." Eli read the verse his grandfather had underlined. "Each of us should please our neighbors for their good to build them up." Romans 15, verse 2. Build them up. Eli closed his eyes. Marcus had crumbled today. All that pain from his parents. All that pressure from Tyler. It had piled up until he exploded. Marcus had tried to be strong. Samson strong. Pushing back. Proving he wasn't weak. But that kind of strength breaks things. including yourself. Eli grabbed his phone and texted Marcus. Just 3 words. "You okay, man?" The reply came slow. "No." Eli's thumbs hovered. He didn't know what to type. But then his grandfather's words echoed. "Use your strength to lift up someone who's weak." He wasn't physically strong. He couldn't fight Tyler. He couldn't undo the suspension. But he could show up. "Can I come over tomorrow?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. "Yeah, please." Eli let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Strength that serves. That's what his grandfather meant. Not muscles. Not fists. Not winning. Sometimes being strong means sitting with someone in their worst moment. Sometimes it means texting 3 words when you don't know what else to say. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is just not leave. Eli looked at the journal one more time. His grandfather had drawn a small picture at the bottom of the page. 2 stick figures. One was kneeling. The other stood behind, hands on the first one's shoulders, lifting them up. Under the drawing, in shaky letters, "Be strong, Eli, but never forget what your strength is for." The suspension lasted 3 days. 3 days of Marcus sitting at home. 3 days of Eli eating lunch alone. On the 4th day, Marcus came back. But something was different. He didn't look at Eli in the hallway. Didn't wave. Just kept his head down and walked past like they'd never met. Eli's chest tightened. Had he done something wrong? At lunch, Marcus sat in the far corner. Alone. Eli grabbed his tray and walked straight toward him. Marcus looked up. His eyes said, "Go away." Eli sat down anyway. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The cafeteria buzzed around them. Forks, scraping, kids laughing. But their table was silent. Finally, Marcus broke. "Why are you here?" "What do you mean?" Marcus shoved his food around. "I punched someone. Got suspended. Everyone thinks I'm a psycho." He looked up, eyes hard. "Why haven't you given up on me?" The question hit Eli like cold water. He thought about the past few weeks. Standing up to Jake. Sitting with Marcus when no one else would. Learning to fight an enemy he couldn't even see. Why hadn't he given up? "There is this thing my grandpa taught me," Eli said slowly. "A code. 5 words. Watch. Stand. Fight. Strong. Love." Marcus stared at him. "Love. Yeah." Eli nodded. The last word. The hardest one. "How's love hard?" Marcus scoffed. "Love is hearts and stuff. It's easy." Eli shook his head. "Not warrior love. That's different." He remembered what Grandpa had written. The last section of the journal. The one with the heaviest words. "My grandpa said real love isn't a feeling," Eli explained. "It's a choice. Choosing to stay when it's easier to leave. Choosing to show up when no one else does." Marcus's jaw tightened. "But why me? I'm not worth it." "That's the point." Eli leaned forward. "The code says everything we do is for others. Not because they deserve it. Because that's what warriors do, He thought of Jonathan, the prince who gave up his throne for David, who protected his friend when his own father wanted David dead, who stayed loyal even when it cost him everything. Jonathan didn't stay because David was perfect. He stayed because that's what love does. "There's this verse," Eli said quietly. "Greater love has no one than this, to lay down your life for your friends." Marcus's eyes got shiny. He looked away fast, blinked hard. "Nobody's ever done that for me," he whispered. Eli's throat felt tight. "Well, I'm doing it now." That night, Eli opened the journal one more time. The section on love was longer than the others, as if Grandpa had saved his most important words for last. "Eli, if you've made it this far, you've learned to watch like a warrior, to stand when it hurts, to fight the real enemy, to be strong for others. But none of it matters without love. Love is the reason for everything else. A warrior who watches but doesn't love is just a spy. A warrior who stands but doesn't love is just stubborn. A warrior who fights but doesn't love is just angry. A warrior who's strong but doesn't love is just dangerous. Love is the why, Eli. Never forget it." Eli turned the page and stopped breathing. There was another page, one he'd never seen before. At the top, in Grandpa's bold handwriting, "Finding other warriors." Eli's heart hammered. He read faster. The code isn't meant to be lived alone. Warriors need other warriors. Jonathan had David. Paul had Timothy. Jesus had 12. When you find someone worth fighting for, you found someone worth fighting. Eli closed the journal slowly. Marcus. He'd been trying to help Marcus this whole time. But maybe there was more to it. Maybe Marcus wasn't just someone to protect. Maybe he was another warrior, waiting to be found. Eli looked out his window at the dark sky. Somewhere across town, Marcus was probably staring at his own ceiling, wondering if anyone really cared. Tomorrow, Eli would tell him about the code. Tomorrow, he'd show him the journal. Tomorrow, Marcus might become something he'd never been before. Not just a friend, a brother in arms. The basketball court was empty when Eli arrived. Just him, Marcus, and the sound of the ball hitting concrete. Things had changed between them. Good changes. Marcus smiled more now, laughed easier. The shame in his eyes had started to fade. "Watch this." Marcus lined up a shot from the three-point line. The ball sailed through the air. Swish. Nothing but net. "Nice!" Eli grabbed the rebound. That's when he noticed them. Two kids sitting on the bleachers. A girl with braids and a boy wearing glasses. They weren't watching the game. They were watching him. The girl held something in her lap. Something small. Something leather. Eli's heart stopped. It looked exactly like Grandpa's journal. "You're Eli, right?" The girl stood up. Her voice was confident, direct. "I'm Mia. This is Jordan." The boy with glasses gave a small wave. Eli couldn't stop staring at the journal in her hands. Same worn leather. Same thick pages. Same 5 words carved into the cover. Watch. Then. Fight. Strong. Love. Where did you get that? The words came out sharper than he meant. Mia didn't flinch. My grandmother left it to me. Said I'd know when the time was right to use it. Jordan pushed his glasses up his nose. Mine was in my dad's stuff. He was a Marine. Died when I was 6. His voice stayed steady, but Eli saw something flicker in his eyes. Found the journal last month. Marcus jogged over, basketball tucked under his arm. What's going on? Eli couldn't speak. His mind was racing. All this time, he thought he was the only one. The only kid with a journal. The only one learning the code. He was wrong. They found a spot under the big oak tree behind the school. 4 kids sitting in a circle. 3 journals open between them. The handwriting's different, Mia pointed out. But look at this part. She flipped to a page near the back. Eli leaned in and read the words. The code is not meant to be carried alone. A warrior needs a squad. 2 are better than 1. If one falls, the other picks them up. Ecclesiastes 4:9, Jordan said quietly. My dad underlined it 3 times. Eli grabbed his own journal, flipped to the same section. There it was. Same verse, different handwriting. Grandpa's handwriting. His chest tightened. How did we not know about each other? Mia crossed her arms. We've been at the same school for 2 years. Maybe we weren't ready. Jordan's voice was soft, thoughtful. Maybe the training had to happen first. Eli thought about the past weeks. Learning to watch. Finding the courage to stand. Understanding what it really means to fight. Discovering true. Choosing love when it was hardest. None of it had been wasted. Every lesson had prepared him for this moment. So what do we do now? Marcus asked. He didn't have a journal, but he'd been living the code right alongside Eli. Mia looked at each of them. Her eyes were fierce. We form a squad, like the disciples. The what? Marcus raised an eyebrow. Jesus didn't work alone, Jordan explained. He picked 12 ordinary people, fishermen, tax collectors, nobodies, and together they changed the world. Eli felt something stir in his chest, something warm and strong. They had each other's backs, he said slowly. When Peter messed up, the others didn't bail. When Thomas doubted, they let him ask questions. When things got dangerous, they stuck together, Mia finished. The wind rustled through the oak leaves above them. Eli looked at his journal, then at Mia's, then at Jordan's. 3 different families, 3 different stories. 1 code. We're in this together now. Eli placed his hand on his journal. All of us. Mia put her hand on hers. Jordan did the same. Marcus hesitated. I don't have a journal. You don't need one. Eli looked at his friend. You've been living the code. That's what matters. Marcus placed his hand in the center of the circle. 4 hands. 4 warriors. 1. So what do we call ourselves? Jordan grinned. Eli didn't even have to think. The words came straight from his heart. The young warriors. And for the first time since finding that chest in Grandpa's attic, Eli understood something important. The code hadn't just chosen him. It had been building an army. The oak tree had become their command center. Every day after school, the four of them gathered in its shade. Eli, Marcus, Mia, and Jordan. 4 journals. 1 code. But today felt different. Mia arrived first, her journal clutched tight against her chest. Her usual steady calm was gone. Something flickered in her eyes. Fear. "We have a problem," she said. The others gathered close as Mia explained. Someone had been stealing from the younger kids' backpacks during gym class. Lunch money, birthday cash, even a watch that belonged to a second grader's grandmother. "The teachers think it's the janitor," Mia continued. "Mr. Patterson. They're going to fire him on Friday." Jordan's jaw tightened. "But it's not him, is it?" Mia shook her head. "I saw who did it. Derek, Jake's friend. He was slipping out of the locker room yesterday with Tommy Chen's backpack." Silence fell over the group. Eli felt his stomach twist. Derek was dangerous, and Jake was worse. If they spoke up, there'd be a target on all 4 of them. But if they stayed quiet, an innocent man loses his job. The stealing continues, and the little kids keep losing things that matter to them. Marcus spoke first. "This is it, isn't it? This is what the code's been training us for." Eli pulled out his grandfather's journal. The leather was warm in his hands. He turned to a page near the back, one he'd read a dozen times. Gideon started with 32,000 soldiers. God sent home everyone who was afraid. 22,000 left. Then God tested the rest at the river. Only 300 remained. Eli looked up at his friends. 300 against thousands. And they won. Not because they were strong, but because God was with them. Jordan nodded slowly. "My dad used to say something like that. It's not about how many stand with you. It's about WS stands with you." Mia straightened her shoulders. "So we do this. All of us. Together." "But how?" Marcus asked. "We can't just walk up to Principal Torres and accuse Derek. Jake will destroy us." Eli closed his eyes. The 5 words burned in his mind. Watch. Stand. Fight. Strong. Love. Then it clicked. "We use all of it," Eli said. "Every part of the code." That's how Gideon won. Strategy. Teamwork. And trust in God. They huddled closer. Watch. Jordan would observe the locker room during gym. He was fast. Quiet. He could get video proof on his phone without Derek noticing. Stand. Mia would talk to Tommy Chen and the other kids who'd been robbed. She was kind. They trusted her. She'd help them find the courage to tell the truth. Fight. This wasn't about fists. The real battle was spiritual. Eli would pray. Every night until Friday. Fighting the fear that told them to stay quiet. Strong. Marcus would go with Eli to Principal Torres. His strength wasn't for revenge anymore. It was for protection. For backing up his friends. Love. All 4 of them. Staying loyal. No matter what happened next. The plan came together like pieces of a puzzle. Thursday afternoon, Jordan got the footage. Clear as day. Derek, reaching into a backpack that wasn't his. Thursday evening, Mia called Eli. Tommy's ready. 3 other kids too. They'll talk. Friday morning, Eli's hands were shaking as he walked toward the principal's office. Marcus walked beside him. Steady. Silent. Strong. Jake appeared from nowhere. "Where you going, little man?" His voice slithered like a snake. Eli's feet wanted to stop. His heart hammered. Every instinct screamed, "Are you?" But then he felt it. Jordan, behind him. Mia beside him. Marcus next to him. 4 kids. 4 journals. 1. Code. "Be strong and courageous." Eli whispered. "Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord, your God, is with you." Eli looked Jake straight in the eyes, doing the right thing. And he kept walking. Principal Torres watched the video, listened to Tommy, heard the other kids. By lunchtime, Derek was in the office. By the end of the day, Mr. Patterson had his job back. The 4 friends met under the oak tree one more time. Nobody said much at first. They didn't need to. The victory hung in the air like sunshine after a storm. "We did it," Jordan finally said. A smile cracked across his face. "The code did it," Mia corrected. "We just followed it." Eli looked at his journal, at the 5 words carved into the cover. They weren't just words anymore. They were a way of life. That night, Eli added his own entry to the journal. Grandpa was right. The code isn't about doing one thing perfectly. It's about doing all 5 things together. Watching. Standing. Fighting the real enemy. Being strong for others. And loving no matter what. He paused, then added one more line. "I wasn't alone, and neither were Gideon's 300. God was with them. He was with us too." Jordan didn't show up at the oak tree. Eli checked his watch, then checked it again. The others waited in silence, nobody wanting to say what they were all thinking. "Maybe he's sick," Mia offered. Marcus shook his head slowly. "I saw him this morning. He walked right past me in the hall. Didn't even look up." Eli's stomach twisted. Something was wrong. Really wrong. They found Jordan sitting alone on the bleachers by the track. His shoulders were hunched forward. His father's journal sat close beside him. "Jordan?" Eli climbed up and sat one row below him. "What's going on?" Silence. Then Jordan's voice came out flat. "Empty. I can't do this anymore." The words hit like a punch. "What do you mean?" Mia sat down on Jordan's other side. "We're a team. We just helped Mr. Patterson keep his job. Derek's the one in trouble now, not us." Jordan's jaw tightened. "Yeah. And now Derek knows it was us who told. His whole crew knows." He finally looked up, and Eli saw something that scared him. Fear. Real fear. "They cornered me after school yesterday," Jordan said quietly. "Said I was gonna pay. Said they knew where I walked home." Marcus stepped forward, fists clenching. "Then, we walk with you. Every day." "You don't get it." Jordan's voice cracked. "This code stuff, it sounds great in your grandfather's journal. But my dad..." He stopped, swallowed hard. "My dad followed a code too. And he's..." The silence that followed pressed down like a weight. Jordan picked up his father's journal. His hands were shaking. Maybe some codes aren't worth following. Maybe warriors just end up. He couldn't finish. Mia wiped her eyes. Marcus looked at the ground. Eli felt something rising in his chest. Not anger. Something deeper. Jordan. Eli's voice was steady. Can I tell you about someone? Jordan didn't answer, but he didn't walk away either. His name was Peter. Eli continued. He was one of Jesus' best friends. Like, best friends. He once told Jesus he'd die for him. Jordan laughed bitterly. Let me guess. He kept his promise and everything was perfect. No. Eli shook his head. He failed. Completely. Jordan looked up, surprised. When soldiers came to arrest Jesus, Peter got scared. 3 different people asked if he knew Jesus, and 3 times. Eli paused. 3 times Peter said he'd never even met him. He betrayed his best friend? Mia whispered. Yeah. And when he realized what he'd done, he cried. Like, really cried. Jordan's grip loosened on the journal. Just slightly. But here's the thing. Eli moved up to sit right next to Jordan. Jesus didn't kick him out. Didn't say he was done. After Jesus rose from the dead. You know what he did? Jordan shook his head. He made Peter breakfast. Eli let that sink in. Then he asked Peter 3 times if he loved him. 1 for each denial. And Peter said yes. Every time. Marcus sat down on the bleacher row below them. Peter got back up. Yeah. Eli nodded. And later, Peter became one of the bravest warriors in history. He told thousands of people about Jesus, even when it was dangerous, even when it cost him everything. Jordan stared at his father's journal. His thumb traced the carved letters. Watch. Stand. Fight. Grong. Love. There's this verse. Mia said softly. My grandmother taught it to me. Though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again. 7 times. Marcus repeated. That's a lot of falling. It's not about never falling. Eli put his hand on Jordan's shoulder. It's about getting back up. Jordan's eyes were wet, but something was shifting in them. The fear was still there, but so was something else. I'm scared, Jordan admitted, his voice barely a whisper. So was Peter, Eli said. So am I. But we're not letting you walk away. That's not what warriors do. Mia reached over and took Jordan's hand. Marcus put his hand on Jordan's back. You're not doing this alone, Marcus said. None of us are. Jordan looked at each of them. His squad. His friends. The people who refused to let him quit. Slowly, he opened his father's journal again. And for the first time that day, something like hope flickered in his eyes. The 4 of them sat together on those bleachers until the sun started to set. Nobody rushed to leave. Some battles, Eli was learning, weren't fought with fists. Some battles were fought by simply refusing to leave. The morning sun hit the oak tree just right. Golden light through green leaves. Like the world was holding its breath. Eli arrived first, then Marcus, then Mia, and finally, Jordan. Nobody said anything at first. They just stood in a circle. 4 kids, 4 journals, 1 code. Jordan spoke first. His voice was steadier than yesterday. I thought about what you said. About my dad. Marcus nodded. And? He didn't follow the code because it was safe. Jordan's jaw tightened. He followed it because it was right. Something shifted in the air, like a door opening. So, Mia pulled her journal close. We're doing this? Eli felt his grandfather's words burning in his chest. Watch, stand, fight, strong, love. We're doing this. The principal's office smelled like coffee and old paper. Eli's palms were sweating. His heart slammed against his ribs like it wanted out. Mrs. Chen looked up from her desk. 4 students standing in her doorway. That got her attention. We need to tell you something. Mia stepped forward first. Voice clear, steady. About Mr. Patterson. And about Derek. Eli watched Derek's face through the office window as they told the truth. Watched it shift from smug to confused to scared. Good. Not revenge good. Not payback good. Justice good. When it was over, Mrs. Chen looked at them for a long moment. That took courage. She removed her glasses. Real courage. Thank you. Mr. Patterson got his job back that afternoon. But that's not where the story ends. Because Derek found them after school. Him and Jake and Tyler. 3 against 4. But the numbers didn't matter. You think you're heroes. Derek's voice dripped poison. You think this is over? Eli felt fear crawl up his spine. Old fear. Familiar fear. But something else rose to meet it. He thought of a boy, 12 years old, standing in a temple full of teachers, adults who should have known better. And this kid, this young Jesus speaking truth anyway. Not because it was safe, because it was right. Yeah. Eli stepped forward. We do think this is over. His voice came out steady. You're done hurting people, Derek. Not because we beat you, because we chose to stand. Marcus moved beside him. Then Mia, then Jordan. 4 kids. Shoulder to shoulder. A wall. Derek looked at them for a long moment. Something flickered behind his eyes. Fear. Respect? Maybe both. He turned and walked away. Jake and Tyler followed. And just like that, it was over. They sat under the oak tree as the sun started to set. Orange and pink painted the sky. Nobody spoke for a while. Finally, Jordan pulled out his father's journal. There's something in here. Something my dad wrote. He cleared his throat. I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. Silence. That's not just a verse, Mia whispered. That's a life. Eli nodded slowly. The code isn't something you complete. It's something you live. Marcus laughed. A real laugh. The first one in weeks. Great. So we're warriors forever. Forever. Jordan smiled. I can live with that. Eli pulled his grandfather's journal from his backpack. Traced the 5 words carved into the cover. Watch, stand. Fight, strong, love. He thought about everything. The attic. The discovery. Marcus crying behind the gym. Jake's snake eyes. Jordan's grief. Mr. Patterson's job. Derek walking away. All of it had led here. But here wasn't the end. Here was the beginning. Hey guys! Eli looked at his friends, his squad, his brothers and sister, and something bigger than any of them. Promise me something. Anything, Marcus said. When it gets hard, and it will get hard, we come back to this tree. We remember this day. We remember the code. One by one, they placed their hands together. 4 hands stacked. Watch. Eli started. Stand. Marcus added. Fight. Mia continued. Strong. Jordan said. And together, all 4. Love. The oak tree's leaves rustled in the evening breeze. 4 journals. 4 warriors. 1 code. Eli looked up through the branches at the first stars appearing. Somewhere, he knew, his grandfather was smiling. The race was just beginning. The fight was far from over. But the faith would carry them through, no matter what came next. Lord, thank you for the warriors who came before us. Thank you for the code they left behind. Help us fight the good fight. Run the race. Keep the faith. Not just today, but every day. For the rest of our lives. Amen.